y'all, Dixie here. Picking a pack is actually a pretty big deal because this is the one piece of gear that's going to be with you day in and day out that you will always have on, so it really needs to suit you well. Now, when I was first selecting a pack for my thru hike of the Appalachian Trail, I was also selecting a pack for the first time ever because I had never been on a backpacking trip. And unfortunately, I didn't start purchasing my gear until about a month before my start date. So I didn't have time to order something online, get it in, realize it wasn't the right thing, return it, and then try to order something else. So I just opted to go to the nearest REI to me, which is about 2 hours away, talk to somebody in person who could size me for a pack and then help me through the selection process. And they allowed me to put weighted pillows inside the pack and walk around the store. And I probably spent about 2 hours trying on everything that they had to make sure that I was getting the right thing for me. I also love that REI has a great return policy. They allow returns for up to a year, even if you've used the piece of gear. So if you were to get out on trail and decide, hey, this $300 pack that I bought isn't really working for me, then they will take it back. Unfortunately though, REI and a lot of local outfitters don't have a huge selection in more lightweight packs. Their packs tend to be on the heavier end of the spectrum. So ever since then, I have actually purchased all of my packs online, but I will just say a word of caution. Make sure that if you are going to buy a pack online, you have plenty of time to figure it all out before you go out on trail. And also that you check with the gear company what their return policy is, because if you get it in, try it on at the house, and it's the least bit uncomfortable, then you need to send it back and do something else, whether that's a different design by the same company or a larger/smaller size. But you want to know that you have those options. And a lot of time, if you get a custom pack, then the company won't take that return. So just check in with them. So now some things to consider when selecting a pack and making sure that it's right for you. First of all, it should fit comfortably. The weight of the pack should ride on your hips through the hip belt, so that force goes down through your hips, down through your legs, and you should not feel any heaviness or pulling on your shoulders. If you do, then chances are the pack is too small for you or that design just doesn't fit you well. A lot of these gear companies will have specific videos that you can find on YouTube about how to fit the pack to you properly and all the different adjustments. But one thing you want to look out for is that you have slack in the hip belt. And by that I mean when it's cinched to you snugly and comfortably, that you would also have room to cinch it more in case you were to lose some weight or inches, because that does tend to happen on long distance hikes. And also, if down the line you were to gain a little bit of weight, then you want to make sure that you can adjust for that too. Pack capacity is something to think about also. Now, this is just the volume of your pack, and a lot of times you'll see it in liters. The pack that I used on the AT was the Osprey Aura AG50, and that just means that it's a 50-liter pack. So I have 50 liters of volume to cram all of my stuff in. Now, how did I know which volume pack I needed? From reading different blogs and journals, I knew that most people who went out on the AT carried packs that were between 50 liters and 65 liters. Now, there are certainly some people who have smaller packs that are ultralight and they've honed in on the perfect gear that they need and what they can do without, and have likely done a lot of upgrades to make things more lightweight. And then there are people out there who have packs even bigger than 65 liters. My friend Rebel Yell carried a 100-liter pack and he did just fine. But the rule of thumb is you don't want more volume than what you actually need, because then you'll tend to fill that space with gear that you probably don't need. If at all possible, it makes sense to have all of your other gear and then take it with you to the store if you're going in person, and try to pack all of that stuff into whatever pack you want. And if it fits, great. If not, then you size up. And you can also do the same thing with ordering a pack online and getting it to the house and trying to fill your stuff in the pack within that time frame of when you could return it if it doesn't work out. But unfortunately, I didn't have all of my gear yet, but I decided I'm gonna make everything fit into a 50-liter pack, and that's the one that I went with. Another consideration as far as volume of the pack goes is not only how bulky your gear is and how much space the actual gear takes up, but how much food you plan to carry with you. Thankfully, on the Appalachian Trail, there are town stops pretty frequently, so I only carried about 3 to 5 days of food at any given time. But if you know you're somebody who's gonna be rushing down the trail more, or you really aren't interested in making town stops and you're gonna try to push it more than that, then that's something else to consider. You will need space for your food. Since the AT, I have acquired a good bit of camera equipment that I like to take with me, so I generally lean more towards 60 or so liter packs now. Something else to pay attention to is the weight of the pack itself. There are some more lightweight packs that weigh less than 2 pounds, and then you'll find packs that are in the 5, 6 plus range. It might seem like a no-brainer to just go with the most lightweight pack you can find so you're carrying less weight, but it doesn't exactly work like that. Heavier packs tend to have better suspension, more stability, and they just oftentimes carry more weight better than the more lightweight packs that are lightweight because some of that has been sacrificed. So it'll really come down to how much your gear weighs, and again, how much food you're going to be carrying down trail. For myself and what I've honed down to, I usually aim for a pack that weighs around 2 pounds. But on the AT, my pack was in the 3 to 4 pound range, I believe. There also should be a weight capacity rating for whatever pack you're looking at. And this just means it's not recommended that you load the pack down with more weight than that number. So it's good to look at how much your gear is gonna weigh, and then your heaviest food carry along with water, to make sure that you're not overloading that pack so it doesn't function well or so it even fails. Durability is definitely something that you want in a pack too, so I wouldn't skimp on whatever pack you get. There are some more budget-friendly options out there, but I would look at the reviews, because especially if you're through hiking with this pack, it needs to stand up to 2,000 plus miles. My friend that I was talking about earlier, Rebel Yell, who had the 100-liter pack, he had purchased it from Cabela's because it was on a really good sale, and he had to replace it 2 different times while he was out on his through hike of the AT. So he had 3 total of the same packs. But thankfully, this company was at least easy to work with, and they happily replaced his pack for him. So customer service makes a big difference too. Unfortunately, to hone in on the features that you really appreciate from a pack, it takes some time and maybe also even trying out different packs. Some of the things that I really like to see in a pack are a wide and sturdy hip belt. I've got really bony hips, so knowing that all of the weight of my pack is going to be resting on my hips, I like for it to be wide so the weight is distributed a little bit, and also cushiony and comfortable so that it's not just killing my hip bones. Having an arc with mesh on the back panel is really nice too for areas that have a lot of humidity, like the AT, for example. Everything always stays damp out there. If you're somebody who sweats a lot, then you probably would really appreciate this feature, because it just allows air to move through that back panel and your back is not directly on the pack material, causing friction and more sweating. I like having wide cup holders on either side that also are adjustable, so if I don't have a lot in them at the time, I can cinch it down. But I like that they're big enough to hold more than just one water bottle. And finally, a big outer mesh pocket is very important to me, because I like to have things conveniently stashed where I can quickly pull them out on trail, especially rain gear, which is something that is used quite frequently along the AT. But I definitely would not sacrifice proper fit for the bells and whistles of a certain pack. Paired with my pack, I always use a pack liner, even if my pack is made out of a waterproof material, because my comfort and safety rely on my sleeping bag and my clothing that's inside my pack being dry when I get to camp. You never know when your pack could have some abrasion or get a pinhole in it, So even if it's waterproof, water could somehow seep on the inside. You could use things like compactor bags or contractor bags. Yes, both of those things exist. You can Google them as a pack liner and then put the things that you don't want getting wet down in that pack liner in the bottom of your pack. But they actually make pack liners for packs. Gossamer Gear, for example, sells a 2-count pack of pack liners for $5. And you can use things like waterproof stuff sack or compression sacks for your sleeping bag and clothes, but for my sleeping bag or quilt personally, I prefer to have that pack liner, and then I push my sleeping bag down in the bottom of the pack so it fills out the space of the bottom of the pack, and then it takes up less space than it would if it was scrunched into a Tootsie Roll shaped stuff sack. So once I learned that there are actually companies that made lightweight disposable pack liners, I just went with those. They tend to be more lightweight than the compactor or contractor bags. Some gear companies will send a rain cover for your pack with the pack. I guess the idea of it is it's supposed to help prevent your pack from soaking in a bunch of rainwater and having that added weight to your pack, and then also to help keep things inside your pack dry. But to be honest, in a light drizzle, they might help out. But if it's raining cats and dogs, eventually your pack is going to be wet. So you definitely don't want this to be the only precaution you're taking to keep your gear on the inside of your pack dry. If your pack comes with a rain cover and you want to test it out for the few ounces that it weighs, then by all means that's up to you, but I wouldn't go out of my way to get one to cover my pack in the rain. If anything, I would make sure that what I'm doing on the inside of the pack is protecting my gear, like I mentioned, a pack liner or waterproof stuff sacks. And then you could even do something like spray your pack down with some sort of waterproof treatment like you would use on furniture, or make sure that it's okay for whatever material your pack is made out of, probably a nylon. But this, I think, would help repel water more than one of those pack covers. Now let's talk about how to actually pack your gear into your pack. There's a suggested rule of thumb, and you'll see all sorts of diagrams online on how you should organize everything in your pack. But the general consensus is you should put the heavier items close to your back and kind of in the center along the length of your pack, because that puts the heaviest stuff at your center of gravity, so your pack doesn't end up top heavy and making you wobble around. I mean, it definitely makes sense, but honestly for myself, I try to pack as lightweight as possible. Of course, I do have a lot of camera equipment, but you know, shedding as much weight as you can from your pack, not overpacking, is a good idea. And also I pack for convenience. Now, what do I mean by I pack for convenience? Well, I like to have quick access to things that I use during the day while I'm hiking. I don't want them buried way down in my pack, so if I need something, I've got to take my pack off and unload everything out of it to get to this one item that I packed the way this diagram suggested. So the way that I typically do things is my sleeping bag goes at the bottom of my pack, because I'm definitely not pulling that out in the middle of the day, and I'm not going to use it until I get to camp, and it'll be, you know, the last thing that comes out of my pack. On top of that, I put my sleeping pad. Now I have an inflatable sleeping pad, so it mushes down to pretty much nothing. If you have a closed cell foam pad, you may want to end up putting that on the outside of the pack, and I did that when I had a closed cell foam pad. But next I put my clothes bag on top of the sleeping pad, because there might be a chance that I'll pull some extra item of clothing out of my pack, but probably not. So again, that goes towards the bottom. Then I tend to put my toiletries bag and my electronics bag. They kind of sit in there side by side. I do tend to get into my electronics bag during the day if I need to charge something, so I like that it's towards the top of the pack and easily accessible. Next goes in my food pot and my food bag, because that is the thing that I definitely get into the most during the day. I do like to have some snacks easily accessible. If I'm just walking down the trail and I want to eat something, so I'll put some in my hip belt pockets. But if I'm going to stop and have lunch, I don't want to have to dig a lot of stuff out of my pack and risk leaving it sitting on the side of the trail, because sometimes I'll have brain farts. So when I stop to take a break or eat lunch, I just open up my pack and pull out my food bag. It's right there. My water goes in the pockets on the outside of my pack because I use the Sawyer Squeeze twisted onto a Smart Water bottle. I like that system because I can easily scoop up dirty water while I have my pack on, because I can just reach back and grab the bottle out of my cup holders. And then also while I'm walking, if I just want to take a drink, I don't have to open my pack. I used to use a platypus bladder with a tube, and then sometimes that thing would get kinked up and I'd go to drink and I'd have to stop and take the pack off and fix that. So I really do like the system of having my water easily accessible and I can see how much I have in the bottle. Finally, I prefer to have my shelter on the outside of my pack. If I have my way, I'll have a pack that has the 2 loops on the bottom, so I can just attach it there. If not, then I'll strap it to the top of the pack. The reason that I like the shelter on the outside is if I get to camp and it's raining, I want to be able to just throw up the shelter and then put my pack on the inside and not have to open up my pack with stuff that maybe I don't really want getting wet and dig all of that out everywhere, and then finally get my shelter and put it up. And the same thing goes with packing up in the rain. I like to be able to pack my pack all the way inside the comfort of my tent where I have a dry space, and then I get out, set my pack to the side, tear down the tent, roll it all up, and then attach it to the outside of the pack. And then water can drain if it finally stops raining right there on the outside of the pack and not on the inside of my pack. That's just the way that I prefer to do it. You'll figure out what works for you. It's taken me a lot of years to really hone in on what I prefer, and occasionally it does change a little bit here and there, but you may prefer the comfort of how your pack carries if you pack it based on one of those diagrams focusing on the weight of the items and where they should go, or you may, like me, prefer the convenience of having access to the things that you use most during the day. I've mentioned several times that through my gear selection process I was trying to save weight, or I tried to trim off some weight, so I switched to a different gear item. But what exact pack weight should thru hikers be aiming for? It's kind of difficult to compare apples to apples when you're talking about total pack weight, because that can change from stretch to stretch on a thru hike. If you've got more days you're going to be out on trail in one stretch, then you'll likely have more food. Or if you're in a drier area of trail, you might be carrying more water. So the best way that backpackers have found to discuss weight in any kind of consistency is to refer to their base weight. Base weight is the weight of everything that has a constant weight in your pack and your pack. So anything that's variable or consumable, like water, food, fuel, toiletries like toothpaste or toilet paper, all of those things are not considered in base weight. Another thing that's not considered in base weight is the weight of the clothing that you're wearing while you're hiking, and people refer to that as worn weight. In my opinion, for a thru hike of the AT, a desired base weight is anything less than 20 pounds, because less than 20 pounds is considered lightweight backpacking. And while on a weekend trip, you might not be really worried about the weight of your pack because you're just out there for a short trip. If it's a sufferfest, it's okay. You're gonna go home and recoup from that. But when you're out there for weeks at a time, months at a time, like thru hiking the AT, then it becomes a bigger deal. Now, if your base weight is under 10 pounds, you are considered an ultralight hiker. And I know a lot of people, especially beginners, will not start off as an ultralight backpacker. And a lot of others have no desire to make their packs that lightweight because they've decided there are things that they don't want to do without. But if you nail something in between that less than 20 pounds and 10-pound base weight, then I think you're doing pretty good. Now, that's not to say that if you add up all of your gear and it comes to 22 pounds that you should just throw the towel in and not hike the AT. I'm certainly not saying that, but it's good to aim as low as possible while still maintaining your comfort and being within your budget. And if that means that you're over 20 pounds, then you can still be a successful thru hiker. I just think that minimizing the weight of your pack also helps minimize the impact on your joints and your body, and therefore can help prevent injuries. Before I go out on a thru hike, I like to fill out a lighter pack list. You can put the item and all of the weights, and this helps me make sure I'm not forgetting something, so I can use it kind of as a checklist. But then I can also see how much of my base weight is included in things like the big 3 or my kitchen setup, etc. So for those of y'all who like numbers and spreadsheets, then this might be something you want to do. And for those of y'all who are forgetful, then it might help to see all of your stuff in a list. All right, y'all, well, that is all I have for you on today's topic. Next up, we're gonna be talking about injuries. If you wanna check that out, click right here. If you wanna watch just one big video that has all of this information split up by timestamps, you can see that down here. Or if you wanna watch my thru hike of the Appalachian Trail, you can check that out down below. Thank y'all so much for watching, and we will see y'all next time.